Let's have a serious talk. I mean, seriously. This whole thing about, I like to now say control of our mind, control of our creative energy, how we can create out of the ether. So, with everything that has been documented, what say you on this subject? Do in fact, are there little gray men? Are there tall, how shall we say, pale people, tall, like 7, 8 feet? Are there really such a thing as reptilians, insectoids? Could it really be possible that we live among many different species? Is it possible to, let's say, mass inoculate a civilization from truth? Is it possible that when you think of the concept of a higher intelligence, whether that be in the form of an unseen entities or even seen, how would an advanced mind look at humanity? I would say that if you just stood aback and just allowed it to play before you on the theater screen, 3D, Dolby, right? I dare say that if you truly were of a higher intelligence, what would you say to us? We'd be as barbarians. Because technically, for the last 2,000 years, that's what we've been, is barbarians. Now, prior to that, I think there was a time of enlightenment. But when our species entered into the Dark Ages, starting right around 100 BC, good argument to say that we really have never emerged from the Dark Ages. Real or merely made up? What did say you? Do you say that these are just the imagination of man? Could it be possible that they are of the same making as angels, as devils, as demons, as demigods, demiurges? Hmm? Is it really possible? Are we the victims of yet another denied truth? History would say yes. How can you deny that which has been already created as a time capsule record? A message in the bottle, if you would. They've been here. They're everywhere. Oh, our ancestors probably knew that we would be so de-evolved, so unprogressive that we would never accept the truth? The truth. What is truth? How would we know truth? How would we know to distinguish between the indoctrination, the brainwashing, the medication, the stupor that our civilization is in today, never realizing that it's been right there in front of us? Could it really be that that which once was is still yet? The evidence is all around us. If you cannot accept the archaeological record, the very stone, then you are completely gullible to believe anything. Because regardless how you want to run away from the truth, it's been put into the printed and written record. And those that have discovered fragments of knowledge are branded heretics. But I ask you, who's the heretic? The one who casted the dispersion or the one who's bringing forth the truth? Oh, there's been so much de-evolving of consciousness where the stone record is concerned, not the printed record. The printed record can be forged, can be falsified. The stone record not. But you retreat back into the safety of your cognitive ignorance. I speak that for our species, not for you individually. It would seem that the voices of the past have been ignored because the voices of the past will be our judges. They told us, they warned us, they screamed to us, but we were as children playing, not listening to the sounds of the cries of warning, but to the sirens that lullified our minds. Oh, the record is everywhere. The stone record. They knew that anything that could be printed could be altered and destroyed. Yes, stone can be, but you have to work very hard at it and you leave evidence. Because there is clearly a different story here taking place. One that if we began to recognize it for what it is, just exactly that, might begin to help us out. Clues. Clues. Clues are everywhere. Oh, and today, governments of the world have been, and by acknowledgement, guilty of covering up one of the greatest lies told to mankind. Yes, this is a discussion we need to have. Because the reality of illusion besets us every step we go. So, I think we've pretty well established that our reality, is one of illusion. Very difficult to determine what is truth, what is not. Very difficult to determine what is and what is not. We're besieged today with so much information, we do not have time enough to adequately process it properly. It's hitting us all the time. I don't know if our minds are really prepared. This is still one of the greatest experiments of our species, technology. Oh, I think we've been here before, and I think it's met with disastrous results. Because just as we just went through at the beginning of this program, there is good evidence that there is something else that's been staring at us all along, but we have been programmed, indoctrinated, brainwashed by either beliefs, no matter where they originate from, and no matter where you classify them. We all have been, in one sense or another, brainwashed, indoctrinated, and literally, we have had our cores artificially fashioned to a belief system that it in itself is an illusion. So, the reason why I began to deal in this subject was this. We have shown that the religion story, listen, I still challenge any of you. I always find it amusing that those who come in and begin to criticize, and I don't care, you kidding me? But they pick and choose. They never address the core points of any video. Why? Well, we all know why. It's uncomfortable. So God doesn't need a religion. Let me just say it right now. And God is a created concept, construct. The infinite being, which is above any God, as I've tried to tell you already, if you just go back and begin to listen to the videos, why does why would God want a religion? So let's just deal with this now. I showed you in the video I did the greatest lie ever told, that your concept of hell and Satan is make believe. It's a made up story filled with all the proper points that a story needs to have. I've told you as well that we have all been put under a spell. If you adapt yourself to a religion and you make that confession as such, you're under the spell. So it appears that we've also been under the spell to believe that there could be anything like other species living here. You see, ladies and gentlemen, we know this. We are the epitome of what narcissism is. We are so arrogant in our core that we think that we're the only species here. And then we get into our science. Now, listen, all science is man constructed, as is all religion. The physical laws were here before man, they existed. Man will never know the secrets or the laws of creation, never will. It's above us. It's above us in this temporal plane. This is truly the reality of insanity. We live it every day. You see it in the news. And don't tell me that you're so progressive in your libertarian thoughts that you're above thinking that when you read a story that you don't go, what were they thinking? Or better yet, what are they thinking? So let's get really serious about aliens. Angels are aliens, unless you're saying that they are a specific species designated specifically to some unseen deity. Because that's what it is. No one ever sees God, but everyone sees angels. Explain that. No one sees the devil, but everyone sees the demons. Why is that? So, how far does it go back? Well, the stone record would say from the very beginning. How do we deal with that? Oh, I'll tell you how we dealt with that. We ignored it, or we engrafted it. Now, to do a grafting means that you're taking something from another and putting it onto something foreign, a skin graft. No matter how you say it, you're removing your skin and grafting it to another place. We do the same thing with our beliefs, our theologies, our ideologies, our dogmas, and we find that completely normal. Why? Because we have to rationalize it. We have to have some foundation, right? Otherwise, oh my God, you truly do become awake. All right, couple of books. Now, Michael Sala, who has a PhD in a number of science disciplines, I got into some of his books, and I found this one really interesting. I'll show it up there for you. Someone said, Wayne, please list the books. And then I said, I believe in the fourth state of energy, conservation thereof. So I'm going to hold it up here. You can write. This book brings out the fact that in 1945, let's deal with that. 1945. What happened? Well, actually, a lot happened. Number one, we detonated an atomic device and sacrificed tens of thousands of lives on the altar of whichever God you want to say. We did that. Apparently, that got the attention of these higher ascended species, and probably some that are more technically evolved than us, but maybe have a lagging in what we would define as moral and ethics. You know, you can't have technology that would be devoid of both. And you could naturally have a species as well. So that got the attention. That was a vibration, a frequency that went out into the universe that the sensors were ready for. And when it picked them up, it sent off the alert. Now, whether these other beings have been here, whether they died out, who knows? The record, again, in many cases, has been destroyed or left in fragments. Now, in this particular book in 1945 as well, what happened? Think about this on another end. It's where the Nag Hammadi scriptures, the Gnostic scriptures, were discovered. That sent out another shockwave, another frequency, another vibration. So you can begin to see there was a series of events that began to happen as well on the world scene. World War II came to an end, but then the real war was brought out. And in this book, you will find that Truman couldn't handle it, just could not handle it. It so fractured his core and his religious beliefs of Jesus and God, he couldn't handle it. That's why the man went back into obscurity. It so freaked him out to realize there ain't no Jesus. And there ain't no God that the way that these creatures see it. And when Truman found that out, it was an oh crap moment. Well, fortunately for mankind, we happen to have a dude. Well, that's disrespectful. We happen to have a man of fortitude, character, leadership. And that was General Eisenhower. Best thing this country probably could have done was bring in a military general to run this country. What Eisenhower did for us today, we're still living off the benefits. But Eisenhower's a different man. He'd been in the war theater, Supreme Allied Commander. That was his title. Supreme. There's never been another one. Well, the inevitable happened when we set off the explosive device, and then when we started going through the nuclear race, Russia, as all these other countries began to get nuclearized, the first emissaries were rejected by Eisenhower. Um, Apparently, they didn't like that too much. And you can go back and look at the record. Look at the UFOs that buzzed Washington, D.C. That was a warning to Eisenhower. Actually, it was a warning to the world. It woke our Congress up. Now, there were treaties made. There was exchange of technologies. The Nazis, on the next installment I'm doing of the Sacred Knowledge, the Nazis, they made contact. They did it in a different way, but they made contact. And you cannot deny what Germany was doing. Oppenheimer was a man that, well, he was, let me just try to choose my words. Everything I can tell about him, brilliant scientist, but I think he was an initiate. I do. So, Kennedy, when it was handed over to Kennedy, Kennedy was no fan of what had actually happened. Um, when Eisenhower left public service, his greatest fear, it was said, as he was leaving the White House, was that this day would come. The day that when disclosure was, as he said, would be forcibly put upon us. Kennedy, and I think that this may have been why Kennedy was assassinated, taken out. Kennedy was having nothing of it. Um, History will never know what Kennedy was truly about. He was an enigma. Had a passion for the flesh, yes, but he also had a side of him that I guess when his core got fractured, when you realize there's no Jesus story, there's no savior, there's no one going to come and rescue you out of the bunch of the rest of us, and you begin to realize that the story was manufactured for a purpose and for a reason, well, it blew his core. And I think that this is why they do not tell presidents today the truth. Every president since Kennedy has never been told the truth. The CIA, when Kennedy tried to go through an executive order, and you'll have to read the book, but he signed an executive order dissolving one particular secret agency that the CIA eventually included. They disobeyed the president. They were not going to bring out the truth to the American people. And apparently the Russians were in on this as well. So it gets to the fact that I got, and I've had this for a little while, the you can get this on Amazon, and it kind of basically gives you, well, it's like anything else. You take it for what it's worth. Now, for myself, as I went through this, I found it very interesting. Um, when it was known that they were here, that they weren't leaving, it's also been documented there's not just one race, there's about three that actually live under the earth. Apparently, the earth underneath, we've got this cockamamie idea in our head, right? That life can only be sustained on the top. Mm-mm. Apparently, under the earth is vast, huge. Of course, people say, well, now, Wayne, that can happen. It either be a, yeah, it can. Um, they realized that the only way to get our civilization, our species, into a docile manner was to do a number of things. Fluoride was the beginning. Now I know what you're thinking. Listen, I've done videos on it. You can do your own research. That's why they gave it to the Holocaust, those people in the concentration camps. It dociles your ass. It also calcifies your brain. Now you know where the term numbskull comes in. So we know this. We've seen. We know where these ships come from. You've seen this. And I find it interesting. I got one point I want to read. I got a couple more, but this one's, yeah. It has been commonly accepted that any human being has the power to a lesser or greater degree to mentally control his or her environment using the focused energy of the aurora. However, most humans believe more in the machine than in the human organism. Wow. And have forgotten how to truly use what they possess. This is apparent if we consider what could have happened if the Eastern cultures had been dominated on Earth instead of the more technological based Western societies. OMG. I'm going to conclude on this one. If humans had spent less time on the printing press and more on mind and body control, like the Buddhist monks or Indian Thakras, for example, Earth today would be a very different place to live. There have also been cases where humans have been able to enlarge their sonic Psionic. It's a weird word. It's Psionic. We looked it up, and it's just that. It's the ability to control your psychic abilities. Have either through an increase in their aurora power or because of training by others who recognize and exploit these latent abilities within us all. Check this picture out, folks. All right. So let's just stop here a second. We're having a serious conversation, right? So I have said and done numerous videos on this fact that each one of us generate 20 watts of power. You're watching this, we're generating it. We are generating energy, folks. You don't stop and think about this. Neither do I enough. We generate energy. If that doesn't prove to you that the divine spark lives within us, then there's nothing that you'll accept. Give it up. Unsubscribe from the channel and go your merry way. But for those of you who want to begin to focus in on this, now think about this. The Eastern religions, Hindus, Buddhists, Taoists, they knew the only way you can combat a psychic vampire, which the church is, which religion is, which government is, MK Ultra, I mean, I've documented how they're doing it. We are immersed in an electronic soup. Get this through your head. It has terrible, terrible repercussions. The only defense is what you generate in here. This is what the visitors, the aliens, the other races have told the government officials. That's why TV, internet, 24/7, you've got pre-programming entering in, and it's stealing the soul of our species. If we had learned before we entered into the dark age of religion, and folks, I'm going to keep on saying that, defy me in the points. When did we enter in the dark ages? Estimated between the 1st century to 400 AD. The 1st century, entering into the 2nd century, we were entering into the dark ages where knowledge would be repressed and held back, where the truth of our species was burned, destroyed, covered up. If we had focused in on developing our mental abilities, opening the third eye, learning to develop our psychic abilities, taking the energy, the aurora. I know what mine looks like. I have always been able to see people's auroras. I've seen some that are a sickly green. I've seen others that are just contrasts of blues and opalescences of white. And as you grow older, your aurora can begin to diminish. But think about it. Learning how to identify the chakras, that energy flow, building your spear. I've counseled a couple of people friends, you know who you are, to build your spear. A very dear lady taught that to me. It works. It's immensely powerful. You don't need magic. Now, magic can do an artificial one for you, but what I am saying, you can go beyond that. Yeah, that helps immensely. So think about this. Now, there was yet another book that I got because the first one really did intrigue me. And so I went ahead and got this one. And folks, this one is loaded. Long program, I know, but I have to let y'all see some of these things. This is some of the direct symbols that were taking off crashed and um, captured craft. What they found out, by the way, was actually it was the Russians who discovered this, that they could actually, using radar, and when they began to learn microwave technology and began to enhance it into radar, what they found is that they could use a scattering effect and they could actually catch these things. These things actually travel interdimensionally. They can actually phase in and out. And the only way that they found that they could actually damage some of these crafts is that when they got them onto this wide scatter field, that when they could begin to pick them up through triangulation, the Russians were the first one, they could actually hit them with sudden burst of microwave. And it apparently destabilized many of these. They're not anti-gravity, they're anti-magnetic. Um, we all know that magnetism actually is more superior in law than gravity. So they found a number of these, and as we began to get aware of their attentions, at first, the United States, Eisenhower came into this thing as what I call an honest broker. And the other cats at the table proved, well, just like mankind. And as you can see, they really had good structure in this. It even got more detailed. Um, there's been a program called the Star Wars Cities. I mean, listen, folks, Star Wars was taken from another. You can actually see their flow charts, their organizational charts are spectacular. Um, and whether you want to consider this nothing more than, conspiracy, that's fine. I find religion to be a conspiracy now. What do you think about that? Someone said as well, they said, Wayne, you become a pagan. Listen, we've got to stop branding people. So put your branding iron down and just accept me as you are. You're an enlightened, intelligent, sovereign being. Now, they really get into, by the way, the species. I have to read this to you. Just so you know, we've got classifications for it, and I'll show it to you right here. All right. So a guest invited aliens with authorization of the US government to stay on Earth. Hello, men in black. Visitors, aliens who've come to Earth for unknown missions. It doesn't surprise me when you really think about that, the vastness of the universe, and then you begin to look at the scattering of physical civilizations. I can see that. We know this. We know that the Earth is a magnet. It has a rejuvenated energy flow, sucks it in from all around. Prisoners, captured aliens by the US government and or other governments. You have researchers, aliens who've come to Earth for scientific motives. I don't like the sound of that one. Intruders or malevolence, aliens who are dangerous for our civilization because they don't respect our society. Well, some of you are already reading my mind. I'm going to, if those who are watching this, tell me what I thought when I was thinking on that. The intruders or the malevolents that don't respect our society. Who are those? Neutrals. Aliens who just observe our civilization and never interfere with us. Okay. Colonizers. Small groups of aliens who have decided to live among us. Ba-ba-ba-bum. Interactors. Small group of aliens who have decided to interfere with our history, making changes when it's possible. Where have we seen this before? I pose a question. And like I said, I allocated an hour to this program. I pose a question, madam and sir. What if the originators of every religion was in fact an advanced species? Now, these species are wide and varied. Thus, the reason why we have so many different religions. They go on to report in here through government documents that they've actually now have in their databases some 160 or more known types of aliens visiting the Earth at the present time. And it goes back. It gets kind of weird in here because they give proof. Now, you guys in the military, and I know that there are some others watching, I'm going to tell you a little bit. You see that? That's a Black Hawk, folks. Now, do you know that they gave us some interesting technology that advanced the whole field of aerodynamics in helicopters? About religion, I actually had the little post-it note here. This is really strange. It says the UFO phenomenon does seem to be controlled. This means it does follow intelligent patterns. If the objects themselves are manifestations of higher energies, then something has to manipulate those energies somehow and reduce them to the visible frequencies. For human patterns, but they take forms which seem physically and real to us, and they carry out actions that seem to be intelligent. Now, in a lot of these that they have been able to on the ships, they know they have these interdimensional abilities. But the interesting thing on it, the controls seem to be linked. Are you ready? Yeah, to thought. It says perhaps if we were in a pure energy state, each particle of energy would itself serve as a synapsis, and information could be stored by a small alteration in frequency. All the more memory fragments of a rose, for example, would be recorded at one frequency, and the whole energy form could tune into that memory by adjusting the frequency. Brilliant. Think about that. I never thought about this. But you can store huge, vast amounts of data based on a specific frequency if you have the receptor to tune into it. That's truly, folks, collective consciousness at its optimum. Now, it goes on to say, it says the energy patterns would not need material form. It instead would permeate the entire universe. Interesting. The universe, small points to view on the galactic concept of reality of the multiverse. We never think about the physical universe as a frequency of reality, just manifesting into the light spectrum that we can see. It could surround you completely at this very moment and be aware of all the feeble impulses of low energy passing through your brain. If it was so desired, it could then be controlled through those pulses and thus control your thoughts. Imagine you've got a beam. You got one coming at you right now, permeating right now. What if they've already perfected this technology that you're not aware of it, but your brain is? Remember, everything that you see, feel, taste, touch is nothing more than an electrical impulse. That's all it is. Man has always been aware of this intelligent energy or force and has always worshiped it as God, Jesus, or the universal being. Our first conclusion is that some UFOs originate from beyond our own time frame or time cycle. Our second conclusion is that the sources has totally foreknowledge of human events and even individual lives, since time and space are not absolutes. Hmm. All right, let me go on. Now, they actually get into this of how I'm going to show this to you. How you can actually coexist in multi dimensions. First dimension is just a plain point. Second dimension is two points together connected by a line. Third dimension is density, volume. That's us. The fourth dimension is time. And the fifth dimension parallels universes or the multiverse. Seems our friends know about this. They have a symbol for it. They actually have built, apparently, a frequency that aids them through their combined consciousness that they tap in. Very odd. They talk about how they can exist very easily. Light is very easily manipulated. I found this one. They have a number of star charts that they have actually captured, um, symbols. I got some more in here because they're quite fascinating in their points. Complete alphabets. They understand how their alphabet works. Many of them, oddly enough, use symbols that we're very much aware of. Different type of life forms. They do have a form of protoplasma that's actually apparently manifests itself as sentient consciousness. I told you I'd actually show you a couple of these because they're quite fascinating. And that's what I'm actually looking for. They have identified the different races. Um, Folks, it gets into some stuff here on nanotechnology, how they've been able to develop smart dust. I found this one interesting. These are the different races. Oh, there are many crash ships. Apparently, we figured them out and they now know it, causing them to have to adapt to us in many cases. They say that There are many different types of reptilioids. Um, these, they've got them into classes. Categorize them. You've heard about the reptoids living underneath LA? Well, yeah, apparently a lot of truth to that. Oh, here was a star map, one of the ships that they found. Not odd? Where have we seen characters like that before? The Greys, different versions of them. They actually have where they basically have been found. There's a lot of them here, folks, in America. We made a deal with them, apparently. And it looks like Russia did the same thing. Probably China did as well. They seem to be pretty much equal opportunity in that. They talk about the Greys as well. Regalians is what they call them. And apparently they absorb their nutrients through the skin. One of the things that they have a problem with in our atmosphere, since they do not have a digestive tract, this has put pressure on the internal organs that they have. They really get into this. Listen, they actually get down into pulse rates for the males and females. Now you can say, well, this is all hubris. Well, you know, I also found religion to be it the same way. Told y'all the technology. Now wait till you see this. So we provided them technology that can actually cloak themselves, new drives and propulsion on, and this is how they can actually do it. Now they've advanced this program to the TR3 Bs. I think they're now into C and D now. They talk about the alien abductions. These are allowed by governments by covenant. They are allowed to extract quite a few of us. They call it harvesting. And really what they're looking for, DNA. A whole chapter on how and why the abductions. So, okay, we almost gone the whole length of time. So anyway, do you think that this is really just that? That they are preventing us from understanding or realizing that we live amongst many species. These species are higher in intelligence. Our governments knew it. They virtually didn't have anything to defend. How do you defend on a higher intelligence? How do you know they're trustworthy? We have found that, unfortunately, many of these species are not. There is a battle apparently being taken amongst some of these species. I mean, if we've identified, as the documents say, and who knows, at least 160, doesn't surprise me. I've read in other documents that they're in the thousands. Doesn't surprise me about that at all. You know, we have to get beyond the fact that they're not all bipedals. Life does not necessarily, our physical forms adapt to the environment that we're in. After reading some of these documents, I'm questioning myself, is our atmosphere, is our sun being somehow interfered with by competing species? I've captured enough of it to know that there are craft out there bigger than this planet. So do we stay in the dark ages? Is that where we're destined? I don't know. I hope not. But no matter how we look at this, we have to include the thought, the evidence of extraterrestrial species that are intermixed with our own, living here with us, most likely in high positions of power. And they've been at it for a long time. I believe they're the architects of all religions, of all gods. Again, I challenge you to show me any god. No gods appeared here. When are you going to get that through your head? And if you say, well, Wayne, we worship the unseen God. Yeah, and there's a part of your problem. At some point in time, you've got to look underneath the bed. You've got to know that there are no monsters under the bed. I'll put the challenge as we end this out. Where are the gods? You know where they are? Right here. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Be kind to one another. And I guess I should now say, be kind to all species that live here. All right. We'll talk soon.